Hey everybody. so, I'm a little wet right now. I have to pour water in my head. It's really hot outside. Um, so, Portugal has defeated Poland and have advanced to the semifinals of the European Championship. This is now Portugal's fourth semifinal out of the last five editions of the European Championships, dating back to 2000. And overall, Portugal is now the only country in all of Europe to have now reached at least the quarterfinals since the year 1996. So that's six editions of the European Championship. Um, and this is really no surprise. A lot of people wrote Portugal off before this tournament started, and it was somewhat of a bold prediction that I have this team reaching the final. Um, but if you look at the history of the European Championships, as was noted a few weeks ago, um, Portugal is one of the most consistent teams for some reason when it comes to Euros. Now, World Cup performances are all over the place. 2002, they finished in the group stage. 2006 was a semifinal. 2010 was a round of 16. And last 2 years ago was another group stage exit. But for some reason, Portugal always shows themselves to be a really strong competitor and a team that usually goes far in European championships. And now they are the first team to have reached the semifinals, and they will play the winner the winner between Belgium and Wales, which I think is tomorrow. Um, Going over this game, Robert Lewandowski had a wonderful goal in the first couple of minutes. He finally got on the score sheet in this tournament. He was lacking throughout the group stage, and people were wondering if he was going to show up. So he opened the scoring for Poland, but Poland made the same mistake that they made in the game against Switzerland, which was they got an early goal, they went ahead, and they sat back for the remainder of the game, relying on counterattacks, which honestly was a very effective strategy uh, against the Swiss, and it almost proved to be the same today. And they almost got a second goal before the half-hour mark, and if they had gone 2-0 up, that probably would have been game over right there. But after Poland just went up 1-0, after about the 10th minute or so in the first half, it just became a game of Portugal finding a way to break down that Polish defense and get an equalizer. And they did with a beautiful strike from just outside the box by Renato Sanchez, which might have taken a deflection, but it was a great equalizer nonetheless. So about the 33rd minute, it ended 1-1. And then in the second half, Poland has created some really good chances. They looked very dangerous with Milik and Lewandowski pairing up on the counterattack. And they almost had a few moments where they could have taken the lead. Portugal, though, I think in this match overall were the better team. They were the side that really looked like they were trying to win this and prevent it from going the full distance to penalties. Really, Cristiano Ronaldo should have scored in the 86th minute, even preventing the game from going to extra time. There was a wonderful volley over the Polish back line that landed for him, and he went to kick it and he missed it. He didn't even get a foot on it. That was an absolute sitter for him. He should have at least had a shot on goal. Maybe even he should have scored. And Portugal would have prevented playing for another 30 minutes. But it wasn't meant to be. Extra time, Poland was very visibly tired, and both teams sort of resigned to the fact that they were going to penalties around the 110th minute mark. That's when it looked like that's how it was going to be decided. Penalties, we all know what happened. Blaszczykowski missed his penalty. Portugal scored all five. Portugal are off to the semifinals. Poland, a great run in this tournament. They did not lose a single game, but they're going home. If you hear that noise, that's just a helicopter flying above me, so just ignore it. This game wasn't really a surprise. I thought it was going to be a tense and tight one. I thought Portugal was going to go through, but I thought they were going to do it in 90 minutes, like 2-1. But 1-1, penalties, either way. So now, honestly, Looking at this team, Portugal has the look of a side that can go all the way this year. Now I know they've been really underwhelming in their group stage. They tied all three of their games against Iceland, Hungary, and Austria. Uh, they only beat Croatia in extra time. Now they beat Poland in penalties, which goes down in the record books as a draw. Um, they've now played in their 5 games of the European Championship this year, 4 draws and only 1 win, and nothing was decided at the end of 90 minutes. But they got it done, and they are into the semifinals. Um, one comment that one of my subscribers replied to me on when I made a comment on a friend of mine's YouTube channel was that there seems to be a tendency of teams who win penalty shootouts in international tournaments going on to lose the next game they play, especially if that next game goes to penalties. And it's something that I've noticed for quite a while, and it's not a universal rule. So, to the person who brought that up, I just want to say, of course, there are exceptions. And for some examples being Brazil in 2014 when they beat Chile in the round of 16 penalties. They beat Colombia 2-1 in the quarterfinals. So, you know, there are always exceptions. I think more so the reason why Brazil was an exception in that case was because they were the host nation. They had a lot of fan support behind them, and it was just raw, pure emotion that got Brazil to the semifinals of that World Cup. Otherwise, it was the worst Brazilian team in history, or at least one of them. Worst in a generation, I would say. Other examples include the Champions League semifinals that he told me about. Of course, when I said that, I meant that that's usually the case. It's usually the case that when a team in a major tournament wins and advances through a penalty shootout, they usually lose the next game. Especially if the next game, again, goes to another penalty shootout. One striking example of this, at least the most recent, was in the 2014 World Cup, where we had, I believe it was, Costa Rica defeated Greece on penalties, and then the quarterfinals, Holland defeated Costa Rica on penalties, and then the semifinals, Argentina defeated Holland on penalties, and then the final between Germany and Argentina, that match almost went to penalties if not for Mario Götze's goal. And had it gone to penalties, are you really going to bet against the Germans on penalties? So it just seemed to be a trend, a sort of quote-unquote bad luck, an omen, if a team gets taken to penalties. And we saw that happen here with Poland. They beat the Swiss on penalties. They lost to Portugal on penalties. Now, does that mean Portugal's going to lose the semifinals on penalties? It might. I'm a superstitious guy, so that's kind of like a thing in the back of my head. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I said before this tournament started, I thought Portugal was going to surprise people and get to the final. And now, only 90 minutes or 120 minutes away from that prediction being accurate. It was a bit of a bold pick. It was really a last-minute thought that I had, because prior to that, I thought, well, Portugal will probably get to the quarterfinals and then go out. But boy, am I glad that I changed that prediction. So, I mean, if Portugal plays against Belgium or Wales in the semifinals, both of those teams can beat them. Absolutely, both those teams can beat Portugal. Will they, though? We have to wait and see. Until then, I'm going to stick to my guns and say I think Portugal will find themselves squeezed through to the final. But yeah, that's just looking way far ahead. So yeah, my overall impression of this game is that Portugal deserved to win. Poland looked very threatening on the counterattack. They had great chances to put the game away early, but Portugal did not allow it to happen. And I think when all was said and done, I think the better team went through today. So that's it for my reactions. Leave a comment below, like, subscribe, share. What do you think of the result today? Portugal reaching the semifinals. What are your predictions for Wales versus Belgium tomorrow? Let me know in the comment section below. Till then, I'll see you tomorrow.